What's going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and this is episode 101. Today in the show, I was joined by Nick Klock of Never Home. We touch on the Charlotte music scene, their new release, Beautiful Years, that is coming out this Friday on the 17th. So I'm so excited that I was able to get this out ahead of time so you guys can listen, get to know Nick, get to know Never Home, go check them out, and be ready for this release. I'm so excited after talking to Nick about it. We also dove into that idea of going back to something, whether it's your passion or just something you love after a while away from it and what that's like. And I think I could resonate with that so much. And Nick was just one of those people that I felt like right when he got in, we were able to have this wonderful conversation surrounding the importance of music, it for our mental health, and just getting back into swing of things with Never Home. And so I'm really excited to showcase Never Home. I want to give a shout out to James at Carry the 4 PR. Yet again, has sent me a wonderful guest with a wonderful conversation, and I'm so thankful for the trust yet again with another guest. And let's just get into it. Here is our conversation with Nick Klock of Never Home. I'm really excited to get to know your band because I remember when James had sent you over and I was like, this is so great and needed because I think there's so much pop punk. There's a lot of metalcore going on right now and things like that that is good. And I love, there's a place for that, but there's also a place for what you're creating. So I was like, all right, this is great. I get to push a band like this. I'm really excited. And so for everyone too, a question we ask everybody to start it off is, what are your first memories of falling in love with music? Whether it was a time, a place, a record, what was it that made you realize music was making an impact on you?
Yeah. It's funny because I started out, my relationship with music has always been kind of weird in how it got started. Growing up, I was homeschooled and I didn't have a lot of friends, a lot of extracurricular activities. So my mom enrolled me in piano and guitar classes, and I started going to those. I started getting pretty proficient at the guitar and piano, but I started to make my teachers pretty upset because like I started listening to things like Green Day and Blink
Mm-hmm.
182, and I would stop practicing the songs they gave me to practice, and I would start bringing them, Holiday by Green Day and being like, hey, can you show me how to play this?
Yeah.
And so I just remember listening to the radio growing up. I had one of those little like radios that were kind of given away as like a promotional item, and you just plugged a set of headphones into them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would turn it to our local rock station. And I specifically remember like hearing Green Day on the radio. That was like one of the pivotal things, like, oh, wow, I knew I liked music, but this is what I wanted to do. Like, this is the kind of the thing I want to go for. So that was kind of how I got my music taste started. In addition to things like playing Tony Hawk growing up, those soundtracks were pivotal for me. That kind of exposed me to punk rock because, like I said, I was homeschooled and I didn't have a whole lot of friends that were like into that kind of music to introduce me to it. So I kind of, gained my own music taste and learned how to play through those lessons, and kind of got to a point where I was proficient with playing my instruments, but kind of stopped listening to my teachers so much and started becoming kind of self-taught, and then learned how to play those songs I wanted. So that's kind of how it developed into being able to make the kind of music I wanted to, I suppose.
Oh, I love that. I know for me so I always wanted to play guitar. I could never get it. And my parents, we didn't have lessons. They were like, oh, you could just use this book, Guitar for Dummies, and figure it out, which no, I'm not. I just don't have that ear. But it's
Right.
funny you bring up Green Day because I was one of those people looking up tabs online. Oh, I can play Green Day. I can do this, right? Like I can do this three chords.
Hmm.
Absolutely not. Could never do it. And now I'm like, I just got gifted a guitar for Christmas now. So I'm like, maybe I'm going to go back and maybe I can
Nice.
do it and try that. But anyone that is self-taught or kind of paves that way. And I feel like Green Day is usually that first band, or Blink 182, one of those
Hmm.
bands that people want to hear and they say, I want to do this. I've had so many people on the podcast say that about Green Day and say that it was them, and just whether it was Dookie or even American Idiot, later
Yeah.
something sparked them. And I think Green Day still, even now, doesn't fully get their flowers as much as they should. And I
Yeah.
mean, by a lot of the old heads a lot. They'll be like, "Oh, they're posers." Like Green Day is so important. They are just, and I think it just speaks to that you're, I would say, probably the fourth person, or probably even more that I'm not even thinking of, that resonated and went towards Green Day to say, "Hey, this is something special." And it's great that that music kind of gave you that community because, like you said, being homeschooled, right? Like you
Hmm.
don't have that. Like where when I went to school, you would have so and so maybe in a band T-shirt or listening to music and have them kind of show you, "Hey, I'm listening to this band," or "This is what this is." You don't really have that if you're homeschooled. So I can only imagine
Yeah.
that impact on you. And just even hearing that, I'm like, wow, I was really lucky that I had that impact going, even just going to school and experiencing that.
Absolutely. As I kind of worked backwards in that way because as I got more into music and kind of found friends who were also into that kind of music, then I found my people. Kind of usually it
Hmm.
goes the other way around where you find you're kind of social circled by the things you're into. Um, and I like got into music first. Didn't wasn't a kid with a lot of friends, and then you know not through school, but I found other, people who were into what I liked. And my best buddy growing up, he's a self-sufficient, full-time musician. And we grew up playing, crappy punk rock and hardcore and stuff like that together. And, it's both kind of taken us in different directions genre wise, but it's like, without music, I don't know how I would have any of the life experiences, any of the friends that I've had. And so I have, I guess, the radio and Green Day to thank for that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. They don't get enough credit because I think they get written off as kind of baby's first punk rock, I suppose. But I love just about everything they've done, and I think they deserve more credit than they get for kind of introducing a whole generation of people to that style of music.
I haven't seen them in so long too, and I'm one of those people where I'm like I should see them soon because you never know when they might be like,
Hmm.
okay, we're done for a little bit. And I saw them way back in the day, and I was really lucky. And I think just that impact of them, and I remember I think it was When I Come Around in that video of them just walking, something about that and the music. It was like again that was me on my path. And again, someone may say, okay, that wasn't really punk, but that was my gateway into whatever people would say is real punk or real
Yeah,
this. That was my
absolutely.
gateway. And Tony Hawk, again, that's another thing too that I think all of us can relate to in that. And even talking about friends and community and music, I know you guys are from the Charlotte area. So for
Hmm.
you, what is it? Because I've had a lot of people from either California, some from Texas, a lot on the East Coast where I'm from. But for you, what is it about your music scene in North Carolina that's so special?
It's hard to put into words because Charlotte's music scene is really eclectic. It doesn't have kind of that one genre that it's known for. Certain places like, Long Island is all about hardcore
Hmm.
and punk rock. And I would say what's special to us about Charlotte is, I guess, kind of how it is that melting pot of genres. And it's really, we're super grateful to Charlotte because we started out. As we had no real connections into the music scene when we got started. We just kind of started putting our music out there and pushing ourselves on social media and kind of took the if you build it, they will come approach. Whereas, sometimes in local music scenes, you know a lot of people already and you develop bands through your connections in the music scene. We, again, kind of work backwards. And we just happened to kind of come in at a time where, in the late 2010s, mid to late 2010s, pop punk and emo was having kind of a second wind, a resurgence. And we were kind of on the tail end of that, but we caught the wave, I think. And yeah, we just happened to be coming up at a time where that was what people wanted to hear, I suppose. And so we found our community. Again, it all goes back to finding the kind of people you want to be around, and the people who will support you. And even though, we took a break for 5 years, we went a pretty long time without doing anything, and we weren't even sure if we were going to do anything. When we came back, that community was still there for us, and they still welcomed us back. And we're so grateful to basically have a second chance, a second life as a band, because so much in music has changed since since we were kind of doing our thing back then. But what hasn't changed is the supportiveness of the people in the Charlotte scene and their willingness to show up for us. And yeah, it's just a special place full of really kind, generous people. And we're grateful to have a foothold in any music scene anywhere. But Charlotte's always been kind of an underdog city. I feel like it's the biggest city in North Carolina, but it's not really. I don't feel like looked at as a major metropolitan area in the same way a lot of music markets are. And so we've always kind of felt like an underdog band, so to speak. So it just kind of feels right for where we are.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was so special to hear where you guys were from, because you're right, because even me being originally from 30 minutes from Chicago, that's a big market. Now I'm in New
Hmm.
Jersey, which is like a hop, skip, and a jump from New York. So it's like you have that big market. And then again, you go into some of these cities. So it's always so special when you find a band that's not in that has that sense of community like you're talking about, to kind of show everybody that maybe if you haven't found your community yet, that it does exist, and even in places you may not think it. And I think those are the bands and your community are so special to highlight, because I think when you are that underdog, I can only imagine in this industry, especially what it looks like today, right? Like you were touching on a little bit, like today it's very different. And I know you guys taking that hiatus. What do you think has been that biggest struggle for you guys of now returning into this industry that is just, I feel like it's ever changing, even like daily. It's like, okay, you have to do this to be, now you have to be a content creator to be in a band, and it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. That's easy. Definitely what you touched on, the personality aspect. Like we none of us in the band are big social media personalities. We're not really big entertainers. We make each other laugh, but we're probably not the funniest people outside of our circle. So what's been difficult is finding a medium of how to market ourselves, how to promote ourselves in a way that feels kind of authentic to us, but also still managing to catch people's attention because, video content is everything now. Like when we last put out music, it seemed like it was enough to put your music out, post some pictures on Instagram, maybe like some other bands photos and start networking through that. And that was the extent of it. Your music could kind of speak for itself more. But now you really have to play the social media game to get noticed. You really have to put yourself out there in a way that for us is not really, doesn't come naturally. It can be kind of uncomfortable. And so just adapting to the way that social media has changed in like the way that music is marketed through it, I think has been kind of the biggest learning curve. So far we've done, we're doing okay. I think we have a ways to go in terms of figuring out kind of the social media landscape. And I just recently got a camera, and I'm about to start making some of those, little videos where you're singing into the camera, even though that does not come naturally to me. But it works. I mean, at the end of the day, for one reason or another, it's what people want to see, and they want to interact with your content through video. So we're trying to figure out how to do that without it uh, seeming kind of forced from our perspective. I think there's a medium to be found there, but we got to find it.
Yeah, it's even that's for I tell people all the time, even though I do something completely different, I'm with you in that it doesn't come naturally. And it's like, oh, you have to post every day, right? You have to do that,
Yeah.
or then you not even Instagram, then you got to do TikTok, then you got to do this
Yes.
and that, and it's like the ones. It's like I don't want to sit there and do whatever, come up with something
Yeah.
and try and make it naturally when I don't want to be naturally about it, and it's tough, and then something will get like you almost like it's almost that's mental health, right? Too, in your mental health of, oh, this got 10 likes or this got this many views, but then I
Yes.
worked on it and I want to push people towards my craft, whatever I'm doing. But at the same time, oh, well, this one posted this silly video and it has this many, and that has to mess with your head a lot, especially in trying to put out an EP, trying to put out just a song and then maybe having it swept under the rug. Like that for me, even on my end, I'm like, that is, if I could just post it, like you said, like how you used to
Hmm.
be, here you go. And it would get that much like boost or whatever it is called. And that would be amazing, but it just
I
is,
know.
it's so tough. I can't imagine trying to create music and have that whole element. And I think so many people relate to what you said on here when they're asked that question because they're just like, what what do you do in the industry when it's like that? I don't know if there's an answer right now. I really don't.
It really seems like there's not. It seems like it's kind of just a gamble. Everything is kind of at the mercy of algorithms and getting picked up at, the right place at the right time. And it absolutely can mess with your head. What you said is so true, especially to me because I do a lot of the social media and kind of the business side of things. And I suppose, it can be discouraging when you post something that, you compare it to last week's numbers, it didn't do as well. Well, you lose that momentum and you lose that energy to keep going. And it's something that I'm always struggling with is, kind of the struggle between just wanting to give up on it and disappear and just say, well, this isn't for me. I'm not cut out for the social media game. But also knowing that like we've created something really special with this CP. And I'm desperate for as many people as possible to hear it because I know that it's worth pushing. It's worth that amount of getting out of my comfort zone and putting myself out there and, doing things we're not necessarily the most comfortable with. Because if that's what we have to do to get people to hear it, then so be it. Because I'm very proud of the CP. And even though the social media game can be super draining and super discouraging, at the end of the day, I think that it's worth getting as many ears as possible on the CP.
You obviously have had these two singles out for a while. What has been the response to that? Because I love to see when you had posted about them and having them on, and there were people already in the responses rather quickly of exciting, and they were so excited to hear this new music. What about those singles are you most proud of to have out?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say how they kind of display the growth in ourselves from where we left off to now. You know, in 5 years, a lot can change, personally, in your musical tastes, in, um, the way you want to, pursue your passions. So I think that those songs really kind of put our best foot forward and show that like we're back, we're doing this, and it's not going to be exactly the same as it was, but it's going to be better. Like we're really putting everything we have into those singles and this record, and I think those two songs are a really big statement to kind of show the growth between where we left off and where we're picking up now.
When I heard you guys were coming back from hiatus, I almost related a little bit to that because in a different way, I took almost a same hiatus that you guys did from creating music to doing this because it was just, I
Mm,
was so jaded on the industry. I was so over it. And just, I was always just, whether it was getting all the no's or just how the industry was headed, and especially like towards women, there was so much going on to where I put it down. And then I
yeah,
felt like, I've done now doing this for 2 years. And one of those things of there was almost that special moment of when you leave something for a while and then you come back to it. There's just
hmm
such a special feeling of your passion and going back to it in a different way with fresh eyes, new eyes almost. Do you think that and coming back to it now has really helped with this EP and meeting it with a different mindset than you did because now it's like, okay, you were away from a while and now I get to come back to it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I'm glad you're back doing the things that you are passionate about.
Thank
I
you.
think that, this gives a really awesome space for musicians to talk about some things that are, not maybe as often talked about in favor of some more, promotional kind of aspects. You get more into the soul behind things, and I appreciate that. Absolutely. I think that it allowed us to kind of do more of what we wanted to. I think that there's kind of a difference in sound from the first EP to this EP. And I think we kind of took some chances that we wouldn't have before if we didn't have that break because, we're kind of just starting all over. We were kind of starting from scratch as a band because, like we talked about, so much has changed and it's like kind of entering a whole new landscape. So I think it allowed us to, first of all, because we didn't have a time crunch, nobody was expecting us to put out new music. We didn't even tease anything up to this point of, hey, we're working on new music. Maybe to, friends here and there, but we didn't really promote ourselves during the time of making the record. So we had all the time in the world to make this EP whatever we wanted and really fine tune it and get it to where we wanted it, get the production where we wanted it. And so because there was no expectation, there was no pressure, I think the EP is so much better for it. And I think we're really going to come out swinging with it because I mean, I don't think we could have made it better if we took 2 more years on it. So I think that having that break really helped us recenter ourselves and remember why we did this in the first place, but also get this new music exactly where we wanted it, lyrically, production wise, musically. I think that every aspect of our band is better for having taken that break, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's almost like it seems like it was almost like it was time. It was time
Yeah.
to come back and have this. And I think that's what's so exciting to hear that. And I'm excited to hear it. I know it's so soon. It's the 17th. It's here. It's like
Yeah.
right at the door. And obviously there you have your EP release show on the 1st, February
Mhm.
1st. What are you most looking forward to that too? And like getting out there and getting to then play these songs.
I am so stoked about that show because we're doing something that we've never done, which is, we haven't had a huge wealth of material, being that we put out one EP and one single before going on hiatus. But now we're going to have these two EPs that I feel like really tell two sides of the same story. The first EP kind of, explains the growing pains of your early 20s and figuring out who you are, and sometimes in that process you lash out and you're very hurt and lost. And then this new EP, Beautiful Years, I think really, by no means are we perfect, have we figured everything out, but we've taken the lessons from that hurt and that period of finding yourself and healing. And I think it kind of shows the resolution to that first EP, the kind of closing the book on that story. And so what we're doing with this show is we're playing both EPs in order all the way through. So we're playing the Never Home EP first, and then we are transitioning into Beautiful Years. And I just think it's going to kind of, for those people that are familiar, they're going to be there that are familiar with our music, it's going to be cool for them to kind of see all of those songs in order live that kind of tell this overarching story. So I'm really excited to do something that we've never done in that way. I'm also really excited to play with a couple of our old friends, Rothschild. They're a Charlotte band that is also coming back after a break. So it's really cool. They were one of the first bands we played with when we were getting started, and they're great dudes, and we're excited to have them. And then we're also playing with Frontside, who is my favorite North Carolina band. So just a couple special guests that are really gonna. I mean, I think this is going to be a party. I think it's going to be a blast for us and everybody.
It's going to be so exciting. And I know I'm like, I wrote it down because I just personally love this lyric. I'm like, I don't want to get it wrong. But for me, I think you hear kind of what you're saying about this new EP, especially when you have lyrics like maybe in the times where lost inside are the beautiful years still to be. And I think that's just something I can resonate with. I think so many people can resonate with because you're right. When you're in your 20s, there's a certain thing. And then when you do grow older, and I think it just is when life is happening, there's so much going on in experience. And even when you don't think you have it figured out, maybe there were parts you did, or you can look back. I mean, even me, I mean, there's some years even doing this, right? Like recently, I got to sit down with my favorite musician ever, Anthony Green, which was like, oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Like just talk about full circle
I know.
moment.
I can't believe I'm following up. I'm having to follow up Anthony Green.
Hey, but that's what I'm so excited about when I tell people I was so excited that was going on because I went through a difficult time myself. And it was like when that moment happened, it was almost like, wow, like look at this. Like a year ago,
Yeah.
was in not the best place, but by hanging on and still just every day doing something to just know, hey, there's for at least for me, like there's something a bit better to come. Just hang it. And again, not everything's going to be that, right? But
Right.
there are so many moments that you go through that I think I appreciate it more now at my age versus maybe like if I would have in my 20s, right? Like young 20s, I think because of the life that happened in those years. So
Hmm.
I think, and I love that like a band like yours gets to follow that because anyone that comes from that is going to be here and push to these bands like yours that I'm really excited about. And that's what my podcast is about is bands like yours and exposing that and hearing from people and bands that maybe don't get that exposure as they should, or they're maybe just coming back such as yours. So I'm so excited you're going to be following his episode. That's going to be amazing and awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing that. That's great. And congratulations on having him on. I can't even imagine how stoked you must have been. I know I would be, yeah, I would be on cloud nine.
But I'm like, it gave me that confidence to further be like, you know what, you can see like sit at certain tables that maybe you didn't think you could. And if you have the praise from every guest that comes on, or other than that, like who cares if you get a no? Who cares if your
Yeah.
reel's not viewed 20 times or whatever? Like it doesn't matter because you have your community, as you say, like we were talking about, you have that community. And like,
Yeah.
I'm always like community over followers all day. I mean, followers are great and that helps get your music. But if you have that community, that's what gets anything out there. And it's so important.
Absolutely. This may be wishful thinking on my part, but I predict that there will be sort of a swing back to, people desiring authenticity. I think just we're constantly bombarded with, kind of short form content and junk food style content that,
Yeah.
I think at a certain point, people are going to get tired of just scrolling things over and over and over. And I think that, stuff like what we do, the music we make and the content that you make is, I think people are going to start seeking that out again because there's just something about, I mean, there's a reason that the kind of music scene we grew up with was so, it spoke to people. There was just
Yeah.
a vulnerability and an authenticity about it that I think is something that's really lacking. And it's like it all goes back to that whole content thing. Like, how do you manage to market yourself while just letting your music speak for yourself and not kind of, absolutely no disrespect to any artists who do the kind of meme videos, joke video route of kind of marketing yourself, but it really does seem like you almost have to be kind of willing to be a comedian or be some kind of big personality to kind of get yourself out there, and which is totally fine. If that works for you, that works for you. But I think that there are bands like Arm's Length is a
Mhm.
great new band. Hot Mulligan,
Yeah.
those are two examples I can think of that are just really really great bands who stand on their own merit, not because of anything crazy they're doing on
Hmm.
social media, but just because they make fantastic music. And I think we're going to continue to see more of that.
Yeah, and I think I was always told this a long time ago too, is if you make something that is authentic, or I guess lack of a better word, good, if you make
Hmm.
something, people will find that, people will come. And the people that are
Yeah.
sometimes the loudest, yeah, maybe they have that big follower account or big in numbers, but do they have that community because they see the authenticity of it? So that's what I've always stood by too, where and try and help myself at least in that of okay, so maybe I'm not the loudest or I'm not that, but people are going to seek that. And I agree with you. I think we are going to see that as we go on. And again, never hating on anyone, do your own thing, but I think the authenticity is going to win in the end for artists. And at least I hope so. I really do hope that that is the case because I think those are the artists I cling to where I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this speaks to me. And even talking about music and our podcast is that intersection of music and mental health. I
Hmm.
would love to know whether it's your own music writing or if there's an artist that has helped you. How has music been an aid to your mental health when maybe other things you've tried didn't work, but music really spoke to help your mental health?
Music has been everything to me in kind of my own journey with my mental health. Music really, it sounds cliche, but it finds a way to kind of put, you know, put words to the feelings that you have that you can't really explain. And I'm so grateful to the bands I grew up with that kind of helped me understand myself and understand the things I was feeling. And, there have been different bands in every stage of my life that kind of have spoke to me, whether, I was in a good place or a bad place. Growing up, I was really into, heavy music and bands like Killswitch Engage and
Mhm.
things like that. And so that kind of opened up a whole new world for me. Things like, like everybody else, I kind of got started listening to Linkin Park, and that kind of introduced me to other forms of heavy music. And that, gave me kind of my start listening to things that kind of expressed anger or frustration or, things that every kind of adolescent kid feels growing up. And then, as I got older and started kind of having more real life experiences, I got really into bands like the Wonder Years, The Story So Far.
Mhm.
They just really spoke to that kind of, at the time, weird place where you're figuring out who you are, and you're kind of losing friends, losing relationships, but also gaining, all kinds of new experiences along the way. And it's really cool how those two bands specifically, like, I feel like I've grown up with them. Like the Wonder Years music has just aged so amazingly well. And not only, their old music, but the things they continue to put out, it truly feels like you're growing up with them at the same time. Same with The Story So Far. And then, happier times I really associate with bands like I'm wearing their shirt, the 1975.
Mhm.
That's one of my favorite bands ever. And they just have this like dreamlike quality to their music that like takes me back to kind of, better times. And those are kind of the two sides of the same coin. I really like, the emotional stuff when I'm not feeling at my best. And I'm a big fan of pop music, and it kind of brings out some of the joy in my life. And yeah, I would say those are some of the bands that have been kind of seminal in guiding my sort of my mental, not guiding necessarily, but soundtracking, I guess, my mental health.
Oh, I love how you put that because it is so true. Yeah, the Wonder Years. I agree with that, especially oh gosh, that record, The Hum Goes On Forever. I
Hmm.
think that one, I felt like where some people, I guess if they weren't into it, I kind of said that same thing where they've grown. They're not that band that's still in their, I don't know how old they are. I think in their 30s. I don't know, middle
Yeah,
mid 30s, I would think. But for them, I wouldn't want them to be that age and still singing like teenage stuff or young 20. I
exactly.
want to grow with a band, so I respect bands like that I'm like, wow, I've grown with the Wonder Years where I did feel like oh my gosh, I'm blanking at that song. It's one of my favorite songs where the lyrics like Jesus Christ, I'm 26.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Passing through a screen door.
yes, that song, I think about that song when I heard that in my life and where I was. And then
Yeah,
even if I hear it now, then I hear their music and I'm like, wow, like I resonated so much with that because that was me always chasing like I want to, talk to musicians. I want to work in music. That's what I want to do. And everybody around me was on a different path. And here I am in my 30s and I'm not on that path that other people are. And it was almost
yeah,
like accepting that and saying like that's okay. Like yeah, maybe I don't have XYZ that I should or the society says that, but there's other people out there that are going through the same thing and it's okay. Maybe my path is just different. So it's like bands like the Wonder Years have allowed me to feel that way. And I think they're so slept on still. I think
oh yeah,
they're so great and they're so wonderful. And anything they put out, I'm just like, okay, like it's better than the last if that's possible. And same with the Story
yeah,
So Far and the 1975. All those bands are just so good and I think they represent something so different like in their own way. And even the 1975, as much as it's poppy, if you listen to those lyrics, it's
uh-huh.
like, whoa, what are they really like touching on here? And I think that's always cool when a band does that too. So I love that no one has brought up the 1975 on here and
Nice.
they're so great. And they're another one. I'm like, why has no one mentioned them yet? They're so good. I know like I'm not one of the only ones. So I love them and yeah, the Story So Far too. Their latest record and they were another one that I think they've grown. They've shown that
Yes,
they
absolutely.
grew on this record. So I think yeah, I love that you did put the soundtrack to your mental health because I think that's what it is in a way. And I
Yeah.
think So many ways it's that.
I think you kind of seek out what you're feeling at the time, and it's not so much that your music dictates your mental health as the other way around, I think. And sometimes you can, maybe use music to help you out of a funk or out of a bad place, but at the end of the day, music is a tool, I think, and it's there alongside things like therapy and exercise, things that you can do to better your situation. And at least for me, I definitely had to put in some work to better my situation, but music was there for me every step of the way. And it was kind of interesting to hear, like, even subconsciously, how my taste changed as I got to a better place. And yeah, that's another band that I want to mention that's been really crucial to me is The Dangerous Summer.
Mhm.
They are another one of those bands that, like, their music matured so well. Every release they had, just they somehow found a way to keep building on what they started. And I think that they're a band that has influenced us musically, maybe more than any other. And I'm really stoked about that because AJ from The Dangerous Summer has a vocal feature on our new record that I can't wait for people to hear, because it caps off the record. It is sort of the climax of the whole EP. And it's such an honor to have someone, like you said, that kind of has been a soundtrack to my life, featured on one of our songs, and it just is the perfect way to end it. So The Dangerous Summer, if you haven't listened to them, I can't recommend them enough.
Oh, and another band that so many I know sleep on or have slept
Yeah.
on. Why, I don't know. But that's amazing that AJ, like that's amazing that you have that. And what a cool way to now, and just a meaningful way, I shouldn't say cool, a meaningful way on this new chapter for Never Home, and to have you have AJ on a song like that has to be feel so great to now you're coming back into this new chapter. And what a way
Hmm.
to have that, and something so special, and it's going to mean so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a full circle moment, really, for us.
Yeah, I can only imagine like that, like even what I felt in my situation with Anthony Green, and then hearing
Hmm.
you have that, I'm almost like, oh my gosh, like I want everyone to have that moment because it's those full circle moments are part of those beautiful years. Like you talk about, like not to be
Yeah.
cliche, but those full circle moments are why you stick around and through the tough times, because now you get to have that beautiful full circle moment. So I love that. And obviously we've talked about the CD release. The EP is
Hmm.
like knocking on the door. I'm going to try and get this out before that so that way people can listen to it. Anything else you can share? I know it's like we just started this year and it's maybe not the best time to ask. Maybe you can't talk about it, but is there anything coming up that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for that question. I just talked to someone else about this, and we really don't know what is sort of next or what's in store for Never Home, because, like we were talking about, this EP was really it's something we've been working on for a long time, and it's something that has taken us a long time to get to this point to be ready to release it. And so we kind of didn't have a plan for the future. We have a plan for releasing this record, seeing what the response is, and if there's a place for us in music going forward. If not, if we don't feel that way, then I'm proud that we are kind of doing this on our own terms and putting out kind of the best thing I could imagine us putting out. But we don't have, really anything set in stone for our next steps. I do think that we're probably going to focus on making new music. I think we're going to, promote the EP for a while, try to get as many people as we can to hear it, and then focus on what's next as far as what we want to create. It's touring is not really feasible for a band at our level, financially, or it's something that the you have diminishing returns on for sure as a band at our level. So I think we're just going to keep focusing on what we want to make and putting it out. And, if people resonate with it, or if it resonates with people and we continue to kind of grow our circle, then that's great. If not, we're still going to, I think, put out music and just do it for us, do what we want to do and make what we want to make. And I think that's kind of the healthiest mindset to approach it with, is just making the music that you want to make, that you want to hear. Because I just think like you said before, if you make something that's authentic to you, then people are going to flock to it. So
Hmm.
I, sorry, that was a long rambling answer, but all that to
No.
say, I think we're going to go back into writing mode after this. Take a break from things like shows um, and promoting ourselves and kind of get back to making whatever's next. And I think that is probably going to be a full length record. I think with two EPs under our belt, the next thing we would want to do as a band is, make a whole body of work. As a, I know records aren't exactly the most popular, method of releasing music, but I think it's, I think that there are still people out there that want to have a whole album experience and listen to a record that tells a story, and that's what we want to do. So I don't know what exactly that looks like yet, what it'll sound like, but we have some demos. So I think we're going to keep kind of building on the sound that we're establishing with this EP.
I'm one of those people. I love a record and sitting down with a record. I think that's such a lost thing where a lot of people there, I know, oh, we're in a singles era and everyone wants to say, oh, our attention spans. Like, no, but then there are people like me that when a new record comes out, I want that CD or that record and I want to look through, like, why did they pick the artwork this way? Why did they
Hmm.
order the songs this way? Where's the story in this? And I think that there are people like that out there. And I think I wish more people would like realize that and say like, hey, we need to appreciate bands that are doing that and putting out records because I know everyone says that we're just a singles, but I don't want to believe that. I think that there is such
Right.
a beauty in a record and just hearing it and or even just an EP and hearing like, okay, why was this one first? Why did we end here? Like listen to it through. And I think there's such a beauty to it. As a listener, from the listener aspect, I think there is. So I would love to send people your way before I let you go. I want to,
Hmm.
I'll post all the links. I know you're on all the socials, but if someone wants to listen, where are the best places to find Never Home?
We're on everything. Wherever you listen to music, I think that obviously Spotify is a big one. We're on Apple Music, and we have two new singles out from our upcoming EP, Beautiful Years. We have Set Sail Alone and the title track, Beautiful Years. And both of those songs also have music videos. If you go to YouTube and look us up at Never Home NC, you can find those videos. And yeah, we're anywhere you listen to music. So it's wherever you want to find us.
Perfect. Oh, well, this has been so great, and I appreciate you taking time for me on a Sunday and wanting to come on here. I truly loved this conversation, and I'm
Well,
really excited to put it out.
thank you so much. It really means a lot that you had me on, and keep doing what you're doing because it's very important. Seriously.
Oh, I appreciate that, and hearing that, that's what keeps me going on those days where I'm like, is anyone listening? Does anyone care? It's like, yeah, like there is something for it. So I really truly appreciate that, and anytime I hear something like that, I'm like, okay, well, that's why you keep going. So, and please do keep putting out your stuff. I think it's needed. I'm going to push it. I hope it keeps getting pushed in the right ears because we kind of need that. I want the authenticity and the authentic music out there for sure. So I appreciate what you guys are doing and coming back in a time when it's not the easiest to come
Yeah.
back. So I really admire that a lot because that has to be so difficult, as you've said in this episode and everything. And I think, yeah, we'll push you. I'll make sure I'll get you out there for sure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And same to you. I will tell all my friends about this podcast
Yeah.
because I love what you're doing.
And all right, guys, that was my conversation with Nick. Again, I cannot thank Nick enough for wanting to come on my show. And I think it's really great when I have an episode like last week with Anthony Green and then have a band like Never Home follow because while it was an amazing experience to talk to Anthony, it's our is home to those artists that need that platform that I feel get overlooked. And I always want to be that here at Stereotherapy. So I'm so thankful and so excited to have Nick follow that episode because I have a lot of new listeners, a lot of new subscribers, and what better way to support a band like Never Home? All links below. Go check out Never Home. Go get ready. I cannot wait to hear Beautiful Years. I know it's an EP that was a long time coming, and I'm so excited to hear that Nick and Never Home are back at it, and I think they're a band that's kind of needed right now. So please go check them out. All links also below for us. Go check us out on Instagram, TikTok if it survives. I don't know what's going on with that, but definitely check out links below for that and find us. New episodes every Tuesday. And as for Justine, she will not be back for a little bit. She's still recovering. So just if you're wondering, where is Justine? She was just on the episode. She'll be back. Don't worry. And as for our show, if you are enjoying this show, even just a little bit, a positive rating and review goes such a long way. It's an easy way to support an independent podcast, as well as a follow and subscribe. And, share with your friends if you're liking this thing as well. But yeah, we have a lot more on the way this year. And I'm really excited about 2025 for our show. And we will see you guys next time. All right. Bye, guys.